All right, we're here on Super Centex After Dark on Friday night with some good games, and you see the crew here. We were all over the place tonight, and yeah, some good games. I'm going to actually start with Chad. You saw a pretty good one from Robinson.
Yeah, absolutely. The Rockets were down 21-14 at halftime. Won the second half 14-3. Chris Lancaster's bunch did a lot of things right in the second half. Obviously, two stops where Taylor didn't get any points inside the red zone, and one where they just got a field goal. So the Ducks only scored 3 points in the second half, and then big plays in the passing game, big plays in the running game with Christian Lujan. I was shooting and covering the game, so I was able to get a shot of him scoring a touchdown there in the first half. But a big win for them. First time they beat Taylor since 2020. And also, I didn't realize how long this series goes back forever. And they got a couple of wins in a row back in like 2019, 2020. But this is the first time they beat Taylor since 2020. And they got beat pretty bad by Taylor last year. So step in the right direction for them.
Taylor Ducks, home of Kirk Bowles of the Austin American-Statesman, by the way. That's why they call him the Duck.
And my friend Mickey Johnson, who was Kirk's roommate in college.
Yeah, okay. So how good is Robinson? Like, are they good? I mean, are they legit?
Robinson?
Yeah.
I think they're a team with I don't know if it's like a lot of young players, but they're just they're taking steps in the right direction. I'm not going to overrate them yet. Obviously, they played a pretty good game against University, right, DJ?
DJ.
Anyway, yeah. So
unmute yourself.
I was listening to my post-game audio. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Forget Robinson. Has Kiefer Sibley gone over 1,000 yards on the season yet?
You would think, right? I think he was close.
How many did he have tonight?
About 375.
Holy smokes.
21 carries.
That's 700 in just in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. He's had 11 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. He had two runs for like over 50, 60 yards for touchdtouchdowns.
I know he's not a big guy, but somebody is going to get a good back. And I mean, somebody, I'm talking about, somebody playing on Saturdays,
Yeah.
He's special.
Oh, for sure. It's insane. It's just, I was talking to Parker Im from Fox 44 after the game because he interviewed him. And by the end of the game, I just wasn't even tweeting. It was just Sibley touchdown. Yeah, but he credited his O-line, and really that Connally O-line has a lot to do with their success. They're big, they're sturdy, they're experienced. And they kind of helped out their sophomore quarterback as well, and who did really well in this game. Jamarian Vincent, he had the other 2 touchdowns that Connally scored, and then an interception to end the game to seal it. So yeah, he's kind of taking out after Jelani there, playing both sides of the ball at cornerback and quarterback, and yeah, it was just a really good second half for Connally. I mean, the first half was good. It was a back and forth game, and Cameron Yo is a good team, and they were doing what they had to do in the first half. It was just the adjustments that the cadets made, and some self-inflicted wounds really on the part of the Yeomen, because there was a couple of special teams fumbles, and one really weird drive where they picked up a 10-yard penalty, and then ended up hurting themselves by getting a 10-yard penalty, and they just could not move forward. So but credit to Connolly's secondary for really pulling through in the second half.
Yeah, they're good, obviously. And you mentioned the O-line. I think I'm going to do a column on offensive linemen here pretty soon, just in a general sense. I feel like we're constitutionally obligated to say that they're always underrated when we talk about offensive linemen, and yet we all know football. We know the offensive line is important. I feel like they're maybe properly rated, and I think the only reason that offensive linemen don't get more like attention is because they need more stats. I want stats on offensive linemen to be normalized. It's always fun when we get the Super Centex nominations at the end of the year, and there's like pancakes, blazer blocks. I have no idea what a blazer block is, but it sounds cool. So yes,
didn't we get
normalize offensive lineman stats?
I know for honor roll, the guy that got the most votes this week was an O lineman.
Yes, he had 6 pancake blocks. Lorena kid, that was awesome. I love that. Levi Caraway, you were out in Crawford. Crawford bounced back from a loss last week to state-ranked Centerville. How did Crawford look? They look, 56 points, right?
Well, what's crazy is, the final score 56-21, but that game probably should have been like 75-0. They were beating themselves a lot tonight, which I didn't really expect from them. They were really sloppy on special teams. They had actually their starting center was out, and so that was a disaster. They had like at least 5 to 7 probably fumbles. Two of the touchdowns Rio Vista scored were snaps over the head of the punter that he went and got like inside the 10-yard line, and then that's how Rio Vista scored 14 of their 21 points. Coach Jacobs wasn't really happy after the game. He was pretty disappointed in how they played. They have a bye week before they start district, so hopefully there's kind of some time to kind of get things right, get the shit back together. But honestly, like I didn't think they looked that good because of all those mistakes, and maybe that just kind of caught them on a bad week. But we'll see.
Well, so I'm sensing a theme here. Chad mentioned a little bit about Robinson. DJ talked about the Yeomen beating themselves with some self-inflicted wounds. Levi says Crawford, did some things. I think some of that's early season. I think we can blame some of that on that. And holy crap, it's hot outside.
Yeah.
There were a lot of cramps tonight. A lot of cramps in my game.
So I saw a pretty good. I say pretty good. It ended up 70-20, 6-man game. It was still entertaining, but like I saw a play on a kickoff where this Vanguard kid just got discombobulated and sort of like forgot what he was supposed to do. He tipped the ball, went over his head, and he touched it, and then he went back to get it in the end zone, and he downed it when he should have ran it out, and it was a safety. So they are high school kids or teenagers. They're gonna make some mistakes. We're not, we can remember being 17, right? Some of you guys are not even that far removed.
I never made any mistakes as a 17-year-old.
Yeah, Michael Haig. You saw a good game between La Vega and Heritage, it looked like, just from the score.
Absolutely. And I really hate to jump on this, self-inflicted wounds train, but that was the story of the game for La Vega too. Coach Hyde said it after the game, 17 points that Midlothian scored were off of, a false, or not a false start, but an offsides penalty there at the end of the first half that led to a 44-yard field goal. The 49-yarder was missed, but they jumped offsides, gave him another chance at it, and he made the 44-yarder. And then, a blown coverage on a flea flicker, which was a really impressive play by the Jaguars. But you could just tell that, the corner was thinking it was zone, and it was most definitely man, and he just didn't follow his receiver. And then later in the third quarter, just gave up another bomb, to Stetson Surratt, who, man, he just went nuts. He had over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game, and they just didn't really have an answer for him, on that defense. But I thought La Vega looked good. That was an impressive showing. I know they're frustrated, especially after losing to Connally in a close one last week. So there's a little bit of frustration over there, but I think they'll be able to be a pretty, strong team, for their district. And I think they'll bounce back next week. We'll see.
Yeah. And, Drew, you were out in Riesel, and the Indians have given up 12 points in 3 games, back-to-back shutouts now. I mean, what does their defense look like? What are they doing right?
So it seems to me it's the interior defensive line. What was talked about a lot from the coach during the week was talking about how impressive Thorndale's offensive line size was. It didn't look that impressive compared to what Riesel did to them. I think it was 9 tackles for loss, 3 sacks. They had -8 rushing yards in the second half.
Wow.
Like the whole team did. So that was super impressive from them. A whole lot of players making tackles for losses. I don't want to get on the same narrative. It probably should have been 47-0 instead of 26. But about 8, 9 penalties really hampered them from that. But a really impressive unit on both lines. And Gavin Oliver's a really hard runner. He had 100 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, including an 83-yarder where he broke like 5 tackles.
I just feel like next week when it's supposedly 89 degrees one day, everybody's just gonna be like feeling frisky and everybody's gonna be like crisper. I mean, we're gonna get past this heat. And
hey, we're talking a lot about, and I know we got to get to Zach, but we're talking a lot about people who are sad, and Zach saw some Midway Panthers that are probably still a little bit sad, but they'll get over it, right? But let's talk a little bit before we get to that about people that are happy, like the Meridian Yellow Jackets are happy.
Holy
right?
crap, Meridian won. Oh my god.
They won 47-26. They're a happy bunch over there. And the McGregor Bulldogs that I wrote in my preview cap, McGregor Bulldogs and Gatesville Hornets were going in opposite directions.
Yeah.
And that McGregor wasn't going in the good direction. They go down the road and beat Gatesville tonight. That's a big one. And lest I fail to mention, the Itasca Wampus Cats landed on another team.
So
44-12 over.
I'm bringing up the scores during my game, and I'm like, oh man, Chad's gonna be insufferable about the Wampus Cats, especially since DJ and I took a chance on Frost. I still love the Polar Bears. I still think they're trending in the right direction, but yeah, Itasca's got it going.
All right, now we can finish with a downer.
Well, so is there hope for Midway, Zach? I mean, so we mentioned this on the podcast. I don't know which podcast it was, but I said, Midway played this same schedule last year. Obviously, they're in the second year of a 2-year cycle, and they got pushed around and beat up. They've been way more competitive this year. And then they went out in their very first district game and they won. Might have been against Hutto, honestly, which if they do that this year against Will Hammond, whoo, that'd be something. But and he was there last year. But anyway, where I'm going with this is I feel like the schedule's gonna prepare them if they don't get completely down on themselves. What do you say?
Yeah, I was way impressed with Midway. To use a Dave Arandaism.
Way impressed.
Yeah, I was very impressed with Midway. Like Ty Brown is a dude. Like,
he is. I've been saying it.
He's like, he reminds me of like Josh Allen, right? Where like there were some times where he was just like slinging it and it went right to his receiver. A lot of times Vandergrift was covering them, so it didn't always work out, but he was accurate at least. But then he can like tuck it and run and just kind of like run over people. And when you're doing that against Vandergrift, who, has Mark Henry's son on the defensive line, the world's strongest man, like that's saying something. So like Ty Brown really impressed me, and Coach Anderson was talking about the offensive line and how they were kind of like holding up. And I know the score looks lopsided, but until kind of just before halftime, I mean, they had a chance to tie the ball game, make it 21-21.
Yeah, because it was 21-14.
Yeah, it was 21-14. Then they were on the 10-yard line, threw an interception, and then that was right before the half, and then Vandergrift went down just before the half and scored, and then kind of turned things on in the second half. But I'm impressed with Midway. They didn't there were some finishing issues, and it was Vandergrift, and I think there's a lot I think Vandergrift is very good, and I might be biased from I've covered them for the last 6 years, but Midway they're destined for big things.
Vandergrift was in the state championship game last year. Yeah, they're good. So I do feel like it would benefit Midway if they go get a win in non-district before district starts. They got to go to Rockwall Heath next week. Another pretty good team. I got to look up and see what they did last year, but I think they were pretty good. So, yeah.
I do want to the running back Drew Armstead. I think that's how you say his last name. He was apparently shifted over from linebacker this week, and he got hurt. He looked like a pretty bad ankle injury. He was on he was wearing a cast afterwards, and he looks like he's going to be out for a while. But sophomore,
that's for Midway.
For Midway, yeah. Sophomore, let's see, Eduardo Longoria. He came in and he had 42 yards, 13 touches. So he's
so to me that's the area that they've got to get a lot better at is their rushing game. I've seen him twice this year, and I Longoria's okay, but they have a ways to go there, and their offensive line's got to get better on run blocking too. Did anybody have good food tonight? I mean, what was the press box situation at y'all's places? Just chime in.
Well, the administrators at Connally had Chipotle, but there wasn't left any for me.
Well, I stopped at Freddy's on my way to.
Me too.
I stopped at Freddy's on my way to Falcon Field. Yeah, well, I like Freddy's, but here was the deal tonight. I mean, can I
They didn't have fried food tonight.
Can I have some fries with my salt? That's what I got tonight. I got like a cup of salt. I'm going to die of a heart attack tonight.
Turn into a late night critique of Freddy's all of a sudden. Why didn't you go to HO like I told you?
Right. We should be praising businesses to try to get some advertising dollars to our.
Wait, did we talk about Andrew's game? We don't want to skip anybody.
No, we did talk about Drew's game.
Briefly, Riesel.
Yeah, he had.
Oh yeah,
Riesel.
That's right.
You need to go to sleep, Chad.
I just don't want anybody to be left out, Just
all right.
I'm right behind the stadium.
But Bryce, I told you to go to HO and Waco and get some quesadillas and then just walk.
Yes, I should have taken your advice. That would have been better. But I did sit in my bag chair. Saw a lot of people I know, so I had people coming up to me, talking to me. That was okay. The one bank of lights at Live Oak went out at one point, and then the scoreboard went out in the second half. So that wasn't ideal, but I managed to keep up with the score, even in a 6-man game. So there you go. All right. I know a lot of y'all are going.
It's early in the season for the lights too, and the light operators. So they got to get there.
True. I'm going to get somebody out to Gatesville here pretty soon, because if you want great press box food, as Chad
should have been there tonight.
As Chad and I are
tonight. There was a thriller, I think.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I have pitched. I don't remember who Gatesville plays next week, but I've pitched that game to our boss, Steve Boggs, see if he wants to go out there, because he's been complaining for years that I haven't gotten him out to Gatesville, even though I have offered that up to him several times. So
China Spring had good food last week. They had food in the press box. Is that something you don't see real often anymore?
Usually they just have bushes.
Yeah.
Like most places
okay.
have bushes.
We like bushes.
Waco High has bushes.
Okay.
More than Robinson.
Waco ISD will always feed you. They treat you well.
Oh yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Midway. You guys get fed.
Mm-hmm.
These two-way schools don't care.
Yeah. Crawford, you'd be lucky if you get a seat anywhere near the press box. Yeah. But
at least you didn't get locked in like I did last year.
They locked that thing
You're not a
so
sports writer
fast.
until you got locked in.
Every sports writer worth his salt or her salt has had to climb out of a stadium at some point. And with that, we're climbing off the podcast. See y'all. Peace out.